Marcus Aurelius, Carl Jung, Buddha, and Machiavelli all watched the same pattern play out. People building facades instead of character, winning fast and losing everything. And 2,000 years later, the Fab Four's insights on authentic success versus hollow performance are more relevant than ever, especially in 2025 and into 2026, when faking it has never been easier. Let's talk about the person who's winning right now. At least, they look like they're winning. You know who I mean. The colleague who exaggerates achievements on LinkedIn. The entrepreneur who's all flash, no substance, but somehow keeps raising money. The influencer whose life looks perfect, but you know it's curated fiction. The exec who takes credit for others' work and keeps getting promoted. They play fast and loose with truth, with integrity, with basic human decency, and they seem to be fine, better than fine. They're thriving while you're grinding, being honest, doing it the right way, and wondering if you're the sucker. I'm here to tell you something that might sound like cope, but is actually the deepest strategic truth in the Fab Four's entire arsenal. You're winning. You just don't see the scoreboard yet. And they're losing. They just don't feel the bill yet. And if you want the character advantage checklist, 7 daily practices that build unassailable reputation, grab it from the link in the description. You'll need it for what comes next. Let me show you why, using Marcus Aurelius, Carl Jung, Buddha, and Machiavelli, because every one of them understood the facade trap from different angles, and every one of them watched the fakers eventually fall. The 2025-2026 facade epidemic. First, let's acknowledge why this feels worse right now. In 2025-2026, facade building has never been easier or more rewarded in the short term. Social media algorithms reward appearance over substance. AI can generate impressive-sounding content. Economic volatility means people are more desperate, more willing to cut corners, and the feedback loop is faster. Post the facade, get the likes, feel the validation, repeat. Meanwhile, you're doing the slow work, the character work, the showing up when nobody's watching work, and it feels like competing in a marathon while everyone else took Ubers and is already at the finish line, taking victory selfies. This is the moment when good people break, when they think, maybe integrity is overrated. Maybe I should just play the game. Before you do, let me show you what the Fab Four saw that you can't see yet. Marcus Aurelius. Reputation versus character. Marcus Aurelius drew a line that most people miss. There's reputation and there's character. They're not the same thing. In fact, they're often inversely related in the short term. Reputation is what people think about you. It's manageable, manipulable, fakeable. You can build a reputation on smoke and mirrors for years if you're skilled at it. Character is who you actually are. It's what you do when nobody's watching. When there's no social media post, no performance review, no audience. It's the accumulated weight of 10,000 small choices. Here's Marcus's brutal insight. Reputation is fragile. Character is anti-fragile. The person building on reputation is building on sand. Every lie requires another lie. Every exaggeration requires memory management. Every facade requires constant maintenance. One crack, one whistleblower, one economic downturn that exposes the emptiness, and the whole thing collapses. But character? Character gets stronger under pressure. Character creates gravitational pull. Character builds trust that becomes currency in crisis. Marcus watched this in Rome constantly. The senators who were all performance and no substance, they'd rise fast and fall faster. The ones who did the boring work of actual virtue, they became the immovable pillars when everything else shook. The Stoic question, when you're tempted to embellish, to exaggerate, to present the facade, ask, am I building reputation or character? Because only one compound, the other inflates until it pops. Jung's shadow, the psychological tax of faking it. Carl Jung understood something the Stoics didn't fully articulate. Maintaining a false facade requires enormous psychological energy. He called it the persona, the mask we show the world. Some persona is necessary. We're not raw ID monsters. But when the persona diverges too far from the actual self, when you're faking it constantly, Jung said the shadow grows. Here's what that looks like practically. The person playing fast and loose isn't sleeping well. They're anxious even when winning. They can't fully relax because they're always performing. They're suspicious of others because they know they're lying, so they assume everyone else is too. They're exhausted not from working hard, but from being someone they're not for 12 hours a day. This is the hidden cost nobody posts about, the facade tax. You, doing it the honest way, you get to sleep at night. You trust your relationships because they're built on reality. You have energy left over because you're not maintaining fictional selves. When you succeed, you know it's real, which means the dopamine actually hits. The faker's success feels hollow because deep down, they know. And that knowing is a psychological bill that compounds with interest. Jung's practice. Notice when you're tempted to present a facade. Feel the energy drain of maintaining it. Then ask, what would it feel like to just be honest about where I actually am? That lightness you feel, that's recovered energy. Buddha's insight, sustainable versus hollow success. Buddha's angle on this is different, but devastating. He observed, attachment to appearance creates suffering, but attachment to substance creates peace. The facade builder is attached to external validation. They need the likes, the promotions, the recognition, because that's the only evidence they exist. When the validation stops, and it always stops eventually, they implode. Their identity was borrowed, not built. You building on character? You're developing what Buddha called right livelihood, success that doesn't require you to become someone you despise, work that you can do with integrity, achievements that don't hollow you out. This matters more in 2025 and 2026 than ever, because the old metrics of success are dissolving. The corporate ladder is shaking. The social media facade is becoming obvious. People are tired of fake, which means the professionals who can point to real skills, real relationships, real track records, not just impressive-sounding LinkedIn profiles, those are the ones who'll be anti-fragile through the chaos. Buddha's reframe. Success you achieve through integrity is success you can sustain. Success achieved through facades is just delayed failure. Choose accordingly. Machiavelli's paradox. Seeming versus being. Now here's where it gets interesting. Machiavelli, Mr. The ends justify the means, actually has a nuanced take that supports character. Yes, Machiavelli said it's better to appear virtuous than to be virtuous if you have to choose. But read carefully. Appear virtuous. Not appear successful while being empty. Not fake competence. Appear virtuous. His actual advice? Be virtuous enough that appearing virtuous is easy, because faking virtue long-term is harder than just being virtuous. He saw what Jung later formalized. The psychological overhead of sustained deception is massive. The strategically smart move is to build real capability and let the appearance follow naturally. The person faking competence has to constantly manage their image. The person with real competence just shows up, and their reputation builds itself through accumulated evidence. Machiavelli's strategic truth. In the long game, character is the ultimate shortcut, because it removes the overhead of lying. You can invest all that energy into actually getting better instead of seeming better. The hidden costs they're paying. Let's get specific about what the facade builders are dealing with that you're not. Number 1, the multiplying lies. Every exaggeration requires 3 more to maintain it. They're juggling increasingly complex fictions. You're just remembering what actually happened. way less cognitive load. Number 2, the eroding trust. People aren't stupid. They sense the facade. So every relationship is provisional, transactional. You're building relationships based on reality, which means they're anti-fragile. Number 3, the imposter syndrome. They know they're faking it. That knowledge is corrosive. It doesn't matter how good the facade looks. Internally, they're terrified of exposure. You're building competence, so confidence follows naturally. Number 4, the collapse risk. One recession, one reference check, one person who actually knows the truth, and the whole house of cards falls. Your foundation is concrete. Shakeable maybe, but not collapsible. Number 5, the hollow victories. When they win, it doesn't satisfy, because they know it's fake. Your wins might be smaller, but they're real, and real satisfaction compounds into motivation. Hollow wins compound into emptiness. The character compound interest. Here's the part that changes everything. Character doesn't just protect you from downsides, it creates exponential upsides through compounding. Year 1 through 3. Character feels like a handicap. You're being honest about your limitations. You're giving credit to others. You're turning down shortcuts. The facade builders are lapping you. Year 4 through 7. People start noticing. You're the one who actually delivers, who doesn't overpromise, who's solid. A few key mentors, clients, or allies start gravitating to you specifically because you're real. The compound interest begins. Year 8 through 15. You're now the known quantity. People want to work with you because of your integrity. Your reputation, now earned, becomes a moat. Opportunities come to you. The facade builders are on their 3rd reinvention because the previous personas collapsed. Year 16 plus, you're unfireable, unbuyable, unshakable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Your network is deep and real. Your skills are proven. Your word is bankable. The facade builders are burning out or exposed, wondering where it all went wrong. This is the timeline nobody shows you, because the first 3 years are painful. But the long game, the character game, that's where the actual winners emerge. The unshakable advantage. Let me bring this home with the strategic advantage you're building that the facade players can't touch. You're developing unshakable positioning. When the economy shakes, when industries shift, when algorithms change, when scandals expose the frauds, you're still standing. Because you're not standing on image, you're standing on substance. The 2025-2026 professional who's built character has real skills that survive technological disruption. Real relationships based on mutual respect, not mutual delusion. Real track record that withstands due diligence. Real confidence that doesn't require external validation. Real peace that makes sustainable performance possible. That's not just moral superiority, that's competitive advantage. Your implementation plan. This week I want you to do something counterintuitive. Audit your temptations. Write down the 3 places you're most tempted to build facade instead of character. The resume exaggeration, the social media curating, the taking credit you don't deserve. Run the long game math. For each temptation, write, if I do this, where am I in 5 years? If I don't, where am I in 5 years? Be honest. The short-term hit isn't worth the long-term cost. Double down on one character investment. Pick one area where you can build real substance this month. A skill to actually develop. A relationship to deepen authentically. A project to execute with integrity. Pour the energy you'd spend on facade building into that instead. Final truth. The facade builders aren't your competition. They're on a different track entirely. One that looks fast but goes nowhere sustainable. You're building something they can't see and can't compete with. Accumulated character that becomes reputation, that becomes opportunity, that becomes legacy. It's slower, it's harder, and it's the only game worth playing, because at the end, and the end always comes, you want to be able to look at what you built and know it's real. Know it's yours. Know you didn't have to become someone you despise to get there. That's not consolation. That's victory, the kind that lasts. Now go do the work, the character work, the long game work, the work that makes you someone you're proud to be. And don't forget that character advantage checklist in the description. 7 practices to start building today. Subscribe if this hit home. Every Thursday, we're rebuilding the blueprint for professionals who refuse to fake it. Hit that bell so you catch the next one. The facade trap is real, but you're not falling for it. That's the game. That's the work. And you're already winning.
If this message got through to you, like it and subscribe. We're looking forward to speaking to you again next Thursday. Bye for now.